Hello, and welcome back to MetalDisciple.com's Metalheads podcast. My name is George.
And I'm Buke.
And here we are, back from our little break.
Back in the saddle again.
Why did we take a break?
Because my wife and I had our first child, June 12th. Boy, I better not get that wrong. June 12th. We had a little girl.
Wow, so she's like a month old yesterday? Wow.
Yeah, life is taking a different turn for us now.
I bet.
It's lived up to everything that I've heard that, parenting is and can be.
Yeah.
It's, to hold her and to look at her. Greatest feeling in the world. It still hasn't really hit me that it's mine.
Yeah.
Like Stephanie says, it feels like sometimes someone's going to come and we're going to have to give her back because, we always go over to people's house and visit and see the cute babies and hold them and leave. And now it's
the best
ours.
Kind of kids.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's ours.
Yeah.
So I've been no sleep.
Yeah.
Up with her.
I've seen a lot of pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm sorry to flood everybody's feed.
Between you and Steph, it's been, look, here she is sleeping, here she is awake, here she is this way, here she is that way. But, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, I never thought I'd get to this point.
Yeah.
So now here we are.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much, my friend. And thank you for the kind words you said with the start of each podcast you did.
Sure, no problem.
The past couple weeks. It really was cool to hear that, so thanks.
You're welcome. While you were out, I got a little self-centered and talked about me a lot. Played some really bad music, plus, some okay music. The stuff with Matt. What'd you think of that? Did you listen to that?
I listened to every minute of both episodes you did.
Yeah.
What was your first band? The Forsaken?
The Forsaken.
Did you really write to Century Media?
I did. I was like, hey, don't make me get all litigious on your ass. But that's my band name, and I've, released several albums, if you will, under the name. So back off, buddy. Silence.
And another thing I picked up from listening to those episodes is you could pick out what you were listening to that was really influencing your own musical stylings at the time. Like, it seemed for a while later on you kind of were in a real industrial type of...
That was partly because I was doing everything myself and I relied on a lot of loops, and I was trying to find ways to spice up the music because, that early stuff's really, really dry. Plus, at the time I was listening to Nine Inch Nails, White Zombie, and then Rob Zombie, and like Dracula type stuff. I was like, it's heavy, but it's got a beat, and you can really mosh to it. And so I was influenced by that in the mid-late 90s.
I like your early sample work that you threw in on the Forsaken, like that nature.
Yeah,
you have
those birds. Yeah, it was supposed to be.
I knew what you were going for,
or like spring or something.
I knew what you were going for, but.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed was, like, I'll put in some samples for things, and they'll just go on way too long. Or, in retrospect, you can really hear the things that you would change. I mean, I'm sure all bands do that, but at least, maybe their earlier work's a little better.
There was definitely times listening to your work where I'm like, even though you probably would bash it, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
If it was, done in the studio with musicians like you got later on with Matt and Joey and them,
right?
It sounded great there towards the end.
I always like to think of them as blueprints for something that could be bigger and better when I found some people I wanted to play with, and I just never did really. I mean, towards the end there when I was working with Matt and Joey, that was cool. But then I don't know. I met Barb and things changed, and I just stopped doing music.
Now, do you think if you had the ability to play guitar, play bass, drums, do it all and do it well, like some of these guys do, in a singing voice, do you see yourself possibly, or would you be like these type of people who release a project and release it on the world? You
see it a lot these days. I mean, there's a lot of like one-man black metal bands and stuff, and they make me kind of jealous when I hear about them and I listen to them, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. Because my one-man thing was it's not always so good. I mean, but at least I think I had my moments. And, working on this project, I find myself with a lot of these songs stuck in my head. So I'm like, well, there must have been something redeeming about it that it gets stuck in my head. Obviously, the vocals are off much of the time, particularly in the early recordings. But I think the hook is there, if it could get cleaned up. And I was talking to a friend of mine at work who suggested, well, why don't you go back and re-record these? Because I was talking about how I really don't have anything to write about now. I'm like, old guy stuff. So he was like, go back and re-record the old songs. And I'm like, maybe,
But I don't know. I'm naive to it, but with this auto-tune stuff?
No.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if you had confidence in your, singing now.
No, I mean, I'd have to get somebody, Matt or whatever, to do the singing.
Okay.
In fact, that brings me to something I wanted to talk about, which was, Matt's been having a little back and forth with me about reviving the Sons of Destiny.
He was really excited about that. I was with him for a day when I introduced him to it.
Yeah.
He was really excited.
So I was listening to some music at the gym the other day, and the idea came to me of like, well, since I don't have anything to write about now, why don't we do like a little 3-song covers EP? I was like trying to think of songs that Matt would be good singing. And the first one came to mind is a song that I've wanted to cover for like 20 years. It's called Samaritan by Candlemass. The song is fucking epic. And I'm like, I think Matt could pull that off. That would be awesome. I already know how to play the song. I was actually plinking around on my guitar the other day playing the riffs for it, and I was like, I could do this. And then I thought, what about Sabbath Bloody Sabbath? Matt can do a really good Ozzy.
Yes.
And so I'm like, well, that's 2 Doom songs. Should do a third one. And my idea was to do Ritual by Ghost.
Oh, man.
And call the EP Decades of Doom.
That's pretty cool.
So, will it ever happen? Probably not, just because I have so much to do. But
Matt's free. Matt has all the time on his hands.
But it would be cool to do it and say I've already got it all planned out. The biggest, I think, hurdle is going to be drums.
You have to rely on.
I've never used a real drummer in any of my recordings, and so I have to try and figure out how I would program drums for a cover song.
I couldn't even imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Like I could, these little iPad apps and, GarageBand, stuff like that. I can't even program anything more than a simple drum beat.
Yeah. I'm no drummer, so I don't know. That's going to be the hurdle. If I can get over that hurdle, I can put down the bass, I can put down the guitar, Matt could do the vocals, we bang it right out.
But these one-man projects that you just touched on a couple minutes ago, those guys are doing the drums and everything?
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, these multi-instrumentalists that actually play drums and guitar and bass and sing, I mean, you got to respect that.
Yes. Wow. But, I just wanted to say thank you for putting that stuff out. I know you would, maybe talk bad about some of the early stuff or anything, but thanks for having the confidence to put it out.
Hey, given some of the really bad things on YouTube, I'm self-aware enough that I know this stuff is not classic material that people are going to be adoring through the ages. But it was fun to do when I originally did it. It was fun to look back on it. It's fun to be able to tell, okay, well, I could do that better now, and this is what I'd do differently, and to, actually still like some of the songs.
It makes me jealous because I can't even start to imagine how to even put lyrics together. And you wrote some pretty good lyrics.
Well, thank you. Honestly, I'm starting to feel the same way. It's been 10 years at least since I've done anything. I did write some lyrics, I'm going to say 5-6 years ago, for a coworker of mine that passed away, Jason Brightfield. I wrote some, pretty intense lyrics about that, and I can't find them.
Oh, no.
I know I have them. It's a problem. I digital age, use computers. I write all my lyrics on paper because it's just sort of carry it around in my pocket and write on it as I have time. Mm-hmm. And so I know it's here somewhere, and if I can find them, I would like to record something with that.
Be interesting maybe to get Matt to put that down for you.
Yeah. So related to this, I think it was the last episode of the Metal Sucks podcast, they talked to Josh from 68, and, he was in the Chariot and Norma Jean, bands that are labeled Christian metal, and he was talking about how funny he thought it was that music was labeled Christian metal, or, is there Islamic metal? Is there Jewish metal? Most music doesn't have a religious connotation to it. And so he thought it was kind of funny that the religion that you are gets tagged onto your music. And
Wow.
I can understand that. Granted, I want to know if I'm getting Christian metal because I've gotten, like, Extol was an album that sounded really cool, and I bought it, and then I looked at the lyrics, and I was like, ew. Okay, not a religious person myself. To each their own. If that's what you like, great. That's just not my thing. And so, for me, it does help to have that on there so I know ahead of time, oh, it's like a warning label. For good things. But anyway, the point that I was getting at was that he had mentioned how it always seemed weird to him, Christian or otherwise, how you could label music into particular genres and subgenres. And I'd never really thought about it in terms of myself before. When I was doing music, there weren't quite so many subgenres. I mean, you know, there was doom and there was death and there was black, but there was just metal too. Mm-hmm. And I just always was like, I'm metal. I'm not black metal or death metal or doom metal or thrash metal or power metal. And if you know, listening back to the songs that I played on the podcast, for the most part, it's all over the place. I mean, obviously there's not much death or black except for like when the Joey vocals, but I never considered myself any particular label. And if somebody was like, oh, George, you're doom metal, I might actually be like, don't label me, motherfucker. So I just sort of had this epiphany recently of like, yeah, I can understand why bands wouldn't want to be put in a corner and labeled a particular type of music.
Because once you get that label, you're almost, in a sense...
You're stereotyped.
Stereotyped there. And when you try and do anything to break out of that...
People either give you crap, or they don't understand why you did this, or you're selling out.
It's like Opeth. If someone was to ask you right now, what's Opeth?
Prog metal.
Okay.
10 years ago, I would have said death metal.
Exactly. If people still, in their heads, give them that death metal band, and then they go out and pick up Heritage right now,
they're like, what is this?
Yeah,
this is not death metal.
Yeah, what the hell is this? Exactly. I could see that about you. You know, when people with your music, you can't say, George, you're doom when you bounce all over the place too.
Though I have to admit, if I do start making new music, it's probably going to be pretty doom themed. But I could also see using not necessarily the electronic industrial, but elements that are heavy, dark, not typical metal stuff, atmospheric type things. You know, I've been listening to a lot of Tombs and Thou, and that's just heavy.
Very.
Anyway, before we get too far, I want to talk about a couple of things that we either left out or goofed up on the last episode. When we were doing our top 3 live metal albums,
this was a big one.
You mentioned Opeth's Roundhouse tapes. When you meant to say the Royal Philharmonic, whatever you call it, one, because you were talking about how they played the whole Blackwater Park, and I'm like looking at Roundhouse tapes going, they don't play Blackwater Park on here.
Yeah.
I was like, oops, that was a goof. So that's a correction we'd like to note.
Especially me with the big Opeth fan.
I know. You know, it's the one that comes to mind. And something I wanted to mention, when we were talking about the evolution of taste, that there were bands that I used to not like, that over time I'd come to like. I had originally meant to end that with a little piece about how I hope I never like Dillinger Escape Plan. I don't ever want to evolve to like that band because I fucking hate them.
Just like when I bought the new Every Time I Die vinyl.
I tried listening to the new Every Time I Die. It's not as bad as it used to be. I mean, the music's good, and he can sing well when he's singing, but his harsh voice, it just hits this frequency that just makes me, it's like nails on a chalkboard, and I just want to kill myself.
It just happens. It just hits that.
It's that really annoying frequency for me. It's just, I can't listen to that frequency, and it just drives me insane. And I'm like, I don't know how anybody can listen to this. I did have a couple more bands that I wanted to mention that I had previously disliked, and now I'm starting to like them as well. Electric Wizard, big doom band, but for years I didn't like them because the production on their albums is just piss poor, said the guy who did that music last week. I just didn't like, the vocals are really buried, but I've been listening to it again, and I'm like, I don't know, I must listen to a lot more sludgy type stuff that maybe the production's a little more like this, and it's not so bad. The songs are kind of cool. Another band, Godflesh, I picked up some of their earlier albums in the 90s. It's kind of industrial, drone-ish kind of stuff. Didn't get it, didn't like it. Godflesh went dormant for a number of years. They recently put out a new EP. They've got a full album coming out soon. So I was like, let me go back and listen to that again. given all the sludge and stuff that I listen to, I'm like, this is not so far off base anymore. I get this now. Another thing I wanted to mention was we had talked about the Trooper Ale that I'd picked up. You said you didn't like it. I finally had a chance to try it. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't, blow my socks off. Wow, this is the greatest beer ever, but I would totally drink it again.
Sounds like you're drinking some now.
Sounds like I'm drinking some now. So I was driving in the car the other day, and I had the radio on to Liquid Metal, and I heard this band, and I was curious if you've heard of these guys. They were called Severed Crotch.
No.
They're like a brutal death metal band. The music was okay. I mean, it was typical brutal death metal, which is kind of boring, but, it wasn't bad. What got me was the name. Severed Crotch. Okay, if you're gonna be a brutal death metal band, and you're gonna talk about severed genitalia, hey, severed genitalia sounds a heck of a lot better than severed crotch. I was gonna say, why don't you just go ahead and make the jump to severed dick or severed penis? Severed crotch? That's like sort of a region rather than an actual member. Severed crotch. I just had to pick fun at that name. I mean,
severed crotch. It's just one of those things that seems like one trying to outdo the next. It always seems like these brutal death metal bands are trying to do that.
It's just
with their names or song titles.
It's like they're trying to be outrageous and crazy, yet not too crazy. We're just going to go with crotch. The general region, it could be anywhere in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a penis. Or, I suppose a female could have a crotch. Could be, perhaps it's a unisex kind of thing where it could be a male crotch or a female crotch. I don't know, but I just thought that was kind of goofy. Another thing I was listening to on Liquid Metal, you ever listen to Corridor of Covers?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always around when they're playing that, but sometimes I catch it on the way to the gym and I hear a few songs. And it's a really interesting show because as much music as I listen to, I rarely find songs played on Liquid Metal that I've not heard before. And the fact that there's cover songs of bands by bands that I'm just like, what? What's this? I've never heard this. It just kind of took me by surprise. And this one day, there was Bathory playing Ace of Spades, which is unusual, but they did a pretty good take on it. Then there was Motorhead covering Metallica's Whiplash. That was interesting. There's just so many covers on there that I've never heard before, didn't know exist. I don't know, I thought it was interesting.
Now, I will come out and say, covers to me...
No, I'm not a big fan of covers.
I'm not a big fan of covers.
Unless you're doing something interesting with it. Like when the Bathory Ace of Spades thing, you'd never have guessed that was a Motorhead song. They owned it. And that can be interesting, a different interpretation, but...
Now, there are some covers that I like when... Just like you said, when they own it. When a band, you really hear their style come through. Like when Machine Head covered Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Or the Sentinel.
The Sentinel. Their style really shines through.
Yeah, that's fun. But then you've got bands, I can't remember which one it was, did a cover of Angel of Death. It was like a death metal band. It was like, I can't think of who it was. I heard it was on the same show. And I was like, this is totally unnecessary. It was just very vanilla, bland, nowhere. It certainly didn't improve upon the original. And it didn't bring anything interesting and new to it. It was just like, here's a death metal song. It's typical, yet it's the words from Angel of Death.
Now, I do always get a kick out of when our metal bands do covers of like pop songs and stuff like that.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Children of Bodom, when they cover Britney Spears.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's just fun. Because it's fun to hear, our vocals on whatever type of pop song.
Yeah, there was a metal version of Beat It by Michael Jackson. So I wanted to have a little bitch fest about a couple of different things. First one would be Record Exchange in Frederick. I've talked about them before. This isn't really going to be an issue since I'm not going there anymore. But I wanted to put out there how they screw you if you're a loyal customer. They give you these little cards, these little punch cards. Every $20 you spend, you get a punch in the card. When you get 10 punches, you get $20 off your next purchase. When I go in there, you can drop a couple hundred on some new albums easy. And I was in there not too long ago and found out that they have a 5-punch limit for a trip. So if you spend $100, you get 5 punches. If you spend $200, you get 5 punches. If you spend $500, you get 5 punches. How is that rewarding your customers for spending more money? After the first $100, they should be like, you get an extra one. So at $100, you get 6. At $200, you get, $200 would be 10. So you should get like 12. If you're spending, you should get more free for spending more, not less for spending more. If I go in on Monday and spend $100, get 5 punches. Go in on Tuesday, spend $100, get 5 more punches. But if I just bought everything on Monday, I'd only get 5 punches.
The thing that they frustrate me with is when you fill up one of those cards there,
Yeah.
you can't use it
Yeah.
that same day.
They're like, nope, gotta come back.
Gotta come back. That frustrates me.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But it doesn't matter because I'm not going to shop there anymore. Suck it.
I will.
That's why I don't shop there anymore. Somebody comes along every day, cleans everything out before I can get there, so no more local shopping for me. The other thing I want to bitch about is Metal Hammer magazine. I read pretty much all the metal magazines I can find. I mean, Metal Hammer, Terrorizer, Decibel, Revolver, the big ones anyway. And I get them all on my iPad because I have like piles and stacks of magazines that I don't ever throw out because I'm like, oh, I want that one review. So I started going digital so that I could just store it all. And a few months ago, I re-upped my 6-month subscription, but I haven't been able to access any of my issues since April. It tells me when I try to open it, you need to upgrade to the new software. When I go to upgrade to the new software, it doesn't do anything. It just hangs. So I finally contacted the support. And they're like, oh, well, there's a brand new app. It's like, you don't want to update it. You have to download the whole brand new app. So I download the brand new app. I install it. And it says, you need to renew your subscription. I'm like, no thanks, already did that. So I wrote back and said, well, I did that. And, there's a restore previous purchases thing. And you do that. It didn't do anything. Not only did it not have my current subscription, but now I no longer had the back issues that I had in the previous app. So I wrote back, and she's like, well, it says you don't have a subscription. You need to renew. I'm like, I have a receipt right fucking here. April 27th. Renewed 6 months. I'm good till October, bitch. Oh, well, okay. Send an email to this address, attach your receipt, and they'll port you over to the new app. Okay, thank you. That was a week ago. I've written to them twice since then. No response.
Wow.
Fuck you, Metal Hammer. You were one of my favorite magazines, but you can go fuck yourself now.
Yeah, once you make you mad,
That's
you're
just
done.
ridiculous, Don't fuck with the podcaster who's going to talk shit about you online.
You would think these magazines in this dying market for a bunch of them, they would try whatever it takes to make you happy.
Yeah. So, fuck Metal Hammer. I suggest you all do the same. So I watched the first episode of The Hunt with James Hetfield narrating. Have you seen any of those yet?
I have not.
I haven't watched any of the other episodes. It was actually kind of interesting. As I watched the episode, I kind of forgot that James was the one narrating. But it was cool. I'm going to have to go back and watch some more of them.
Does he narrate a lot?
Well, I mean,
it?
As much as any narrator. Because they talk to people, and so there's a lot of, dialogue from the people in the show, and then, he'll narrate, well, okay, and so now they're going over here and doing this.
Speaking about watching, did you watch the Alice Cooper documentary yet?
I did. Super duper Alice Cooper.
What do you think?
Pooper.
Really?
I didn't really like it. I mean, it was okay, but in terms of the other things that we've gotten from Sam Dunn, this is definitely my least favorite.
Was it that Alice not interesting enough for the documentary?
Well, first of all, it was the type of documentary. There weren't any actual interviews. It was all old footage with audio over it.
Oh.
And that, to me, is just fucking boring. Mm-hmm. I mean, I much prefer a documentary where they show old clips and then they cut to the person that they're talking to.
Yep, on the couch and wherever.
Yeah, and it was okay. They covered the early, from the very beginning, which there was stuff I didn't know, all the way up to right until it gets interesting is when they stopped. Right when I got into Alice Cooper was Constrictor in 86. And that's where they end, before Constrictor comes out. They didn't even mention Constrictor, Raise Your Fist and Yell, Trash. Trash was huge for him. Didn't cover, I understand he wanted to cover a particular period, but it was frustrating to me as an Alice Cooper fan that he completely glossed over the era where I got into Alice and started to like Alice.
Were there interviews with other bands?
There were. I mean, there was like Elton John and Bernie Taupin and some people that he worked with.
It was just talking over footage and stuff. They never cut away to.
No.
Wow.
You never actually see Alice now.
Really?
He talks, but you just get this feeling that it's culled together from various interviews and stuff. They just pulled the audio from here and maybe pulled the audio from there and piled it on top of old video footage. And again, not terrible, but I like pretty much everything else he's done better. So.
Well, I guess maybe I won't be running out to get that and check it out then.
It's worth seeing. It's just, I was hoping for more.
I'm still trying to. Do we know if the Lamb of God documentary is getting a release?
It is. I don't think it's come out yet.
Okay. That's what I want to really see.
Yeah. I hope that's going to be as cool as it sounds. Well, why don't we go ahead and get into some news stories? Not all of these are going to be real fresh because I've been collecting them for like the last month.
And again, if I'm maybe seem spaced out or distance on some of these news is because, again, I've kind of been unplugged from the world in babyland.
Yes.
The past month. So I have interest, we'll talk about some of these, but, you're also probably telling me some news too.
Fair enough. Well, the most recent news, and it's a real bummer for me, is the passing of the final Ramone. Tommy Ramone passed on Friday.
I see your Ramones poster behind you.
Yep. There's Tommy right there. Yeah. I mean, I've been a Ramones fan for 25 years, probably. And as each of them has passed, my heart breaks a little more. The Ramones are probably my favorite non-metal band.
Wow.
My favorite Ramone was always Joey. Joey was the first to go. Then Dee Dee. Then Johnny. Now Tommy. Obviously, there are peripheral Ramones like Marky Ramone and CJ Ramone that replaced people. And those guys are cool. But this was the core. The original four is gone. And this band has had the worst luck. I mean, Tommy was the only one to see 60.
Yeah.
So
what happened to the rest of them? Do you remember?
Joey died from cancer, Dee Dee OD'd, and Johnny died from cancer.
What did Joey die from? We can't remember.
Lymphoma, I think. And we haven't heard yet what took Tommy.
It was bile duct
cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Sad.
Indeed.
There's another time of you waking up to another message from me.
Yeah.
Sharing the news.
It used to be Anthony that gave me all the bad news. Now it's you.
No, it's me.
Well, in more upbeat news, this one isn't exactly fresh, but it excites me. Zetro is back in Exodus. I cannot wait.
Didn't you have an opportunity to interview him?
I did. It was about a month ago. His management contacted me by email, and they were like, Zetro has requested an interview with Metal Disciple. I shit myself, and then promptly was too chicken to respond. Mostly, I just couldn't figure out how I was going to do this. If you've seen or heard any of my previous interviews, they are not very good. And I didn't want to fuck it up. And so I was trying to figure out, well, can I use an app and record a phone call? How am I going to do this? Because it's probably not going to be a face-to-face kind of thing. I didn't have any technology at the time that would do that. And so I was sort of doing some research, planning to get back to them. And next thing I know, it's a month later. And by the way, he's in Exodus now. Whoops, dropped the ball there.
Yeah. So what's your favorite that he has done?
Favorite Exodus album? Or
when he was with them?
Probably Fabulous Disaster. Yeah.
I will admit, I have all their albums, I think. I've just never really taken the time to really give them a serious listen.
Well, perhaps you should.
I probably should.
Apparently, there's going to be a new album. Apparently, they were already working on it before Rob Dukes left the band. Zetro's coming in. He's putting down his vocals as we speak, apparently. The album's going to be called Blood In, Blood Out, and it's going to be out in October on Nuclear Blast. Cannot wait. Maybe I'll get that interview.
Yeah, maybe.
Another new album coming out. I don't think there's a release date yet for it, or if there is, I haven't seen it. There's going to be a new Coroner album, the first one in 21 years.
Wow.
Do you like Coroner?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, I know you like this band, Sanctuary.
I talked about them on the last episode.
Yeah, we speculated about that. We were like, is there going to be a new album or not? Well, apparently there is. It's called The Year the Sun Died, and it's going to be out September 30th on Century Media. I'm really wondering what that's going to sound like.
Yeah, anything Worrell does, I'm a big fan of. I even loved his solo album that he released a couple years back.
Right on.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
Randy Blythe recently celebrated, or maybe he didn't celebrate it. He acknowledged that it's been 2 years since his arrest in Czech Republic. Can't believe it's been 2 years. I swear that was last year.
The trial was last year.
Was it? Maybe that's why.
Yeah, the trial was last year. Remember,
So he was arrested in 2012 and then came back in 2013 for the trial? I don't think that...
Yeah, he was arrested. Remember, he was in jail for a while.
But it was only like a month.
Yeah, came back here, and then he went back over for the trial.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow. Anyway, it seems a lot more recent than it apparently was. Did you see that thing where he burnt his dick? Spilled the coffee on his dick and posted on Instagram about it.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty funny. That's borders on TMI, but
Thanks for sharing.
thanks for sharing. That was interesting. Have you heard of King 810?
Don't know anything about these guys, but I keep seeing their name.
I first heard about them on the Metal Sucks podcast. Wouldn't have thought anything about it except for the fact that they're from Flint, Michigan. Being previously from Michigan myself, I always take an interest in bands from Michigan. I didn't exactly hear positive things about the band on the Metal Sucks podcast, so I wasn't expecting much. But apparently, they were arrested for assault or something like that as they were trying to leave the country for download, I think it was. And since then, the charges have been dropped. I went and gave them a listen. I was like, yeah. Kind of a knockoff early Slipknot, but not as good.
Okay, then I won't be listening to them then.
No, that's unfortunate. I'd like to be able to support Michigan bands, but nah, I just didn't. I understand what they're going for because Flint is a really tough town. It's a really shitty area. I understand their mindset and what they're trying to do, but the music's just not backing it up.
Biggest metal band from Michigan you can think of?
Can't even do that off the top of my head. So this is apparently really old news, but I just found this out. Apparently Blackie Lawless is a born-again Christian, like even worse than Dave Mustaine. Like, how does that work? Were you aware of this?
No.
Apparently this is like years old news, but I just found I haven't really listened to Wasp in years. I mean, the last album by them that I liked was Headless Children. I was in high school.
I've been trying to find their first album in record stores. I can't find it.
No, just go on eBay. You can get it for $15.
Yeah, I've been trying to find it in stores.
No, you're never going to find that. It just kind of blew my mind because when I was in high school, Blackie Lawless was a hero of mine. You know, he was a rebel. He was wild and crazy and sexual and deviant. And then after Headless Children, things just kind of went downhill. And like I said, I haven't listened to him in years. I mean, I'll listen to the old stuff, but haven't cared for any of the new music. And now I find this out and I'm like, wow. Like, he won't play Animal anymore.
Really?
Because it's, Fuck Like a Beast.
Yeah.
He says he's not playing that live anymore. I'm like, well, then why would I go to see you if you're not going to play the songs that I know and like?
He's a modern-day Striper.
I guess. He's more Striper than Striper. Yeah. Should be his motto. More Striper than Striper. So apparently Metallica's Glastonbury show went off pretty well. Did you see that video that they created for their show intro with the fox hunt? That was pretty funny. They've got a sense of humor.
I saw those shirts that they made in the logo with their
the little hippie guy on there. Yeah. I just loved them dressed up in bear suits shooting guys on horses. So the final Rigor Mortis album is going to be coming out on October 7th. It's called Slaves to the Grave. Rigor Mortis were, of course, one of the 80s thrash death bands. They basically came to an end 2 years ago when Mike Scaccia died, the guitar player. You might also know him from Ministry. That was a real bummer. I didn't realize they had another album in the can, so it'll be cool to hear that. One final thing from Mike. Another thing I heard about recently was the Voodoo Gods album featuring Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse on vocals. Have you heard any of that?
No.
I can't believe you didn't hear that. I posted it on Facebook. Voodoo Gods is fucking killer.
I was going to say again, baby.
That's right. I keep forgetting you're no longer part of this world. Well, anyway, the Voodoo Gods album is, I don't think it's out yet, but it will be soon. It's called Anticipation for Blood Leveled in Darkness. I was like, ooh, it's always a nice little bonus when you get a little extra Corpse Grinder, especially when there's a new Cannibal Corpse album coming out. That's called A Skeletal Domain and will be out September 16th.
Have you heard the single from it?
Yeah, they played it on Metal Sucks the other day.
Yeah.
I have to admit, that was pretty impressive. I mean, Cannibal Corpse is Cannibal Corpse. You kind of know what you're getting. But it sounded kind of fresh.
And speaking about Cannibal Corpse, what do you think about them? They're currently, the Mayhem Festival started last week, I think.
I love Cannibal Corpse.
What do you think about them, though, main stage?
I don't see any reason why not. Yeah. I mean, they've been around for decades. They deserve the respect.
Yeah, I was just curious what your thought was. That if you thought that, obviously it's fitting for them. I just didn't realize that they were that big time.
Well,
because Mayhem Fest main stage is really commercial.
Well, if you look at the band list for Mayhem this year,
they're the heaviest by far.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit. I mean, I would never go to see this show this year. There's nobody. Okay, I don't want to say there's nobody, but there's almost nobody. Obviously, Cannibal Corpse. I don't remember who else there was, but there was just no tempting me to this show. It's like, wow, this is really, really bad.
It's really been trailing off the past couple of years. That was always one of those things. As soon as they announced it, you and I would jump over and go to.
Yeah, they used to have a lot better. I mean,
the past couple of years, you didn't even go with me.
No. Well, the last time we went, it was like 105 degrees, and people were dropping left and right. And I'm too old and fat to be out in that kind of weather all day with no place to sit and cool with a nice...
And they sit the second stage in a gravel parking lot.
Yeah, there were a lot of bloody knees and elbows that day.
Dust all over. Oh, I like it, but I could definitely see that in case the bill is really attractive.
Yeah, it's really going to have to be a good bill to drag me out in that kind of heat. So, no. On the Metal Sucks podcast, Godless was talking about how he wanted Chris Barnes to come back and do a Butchered at Birth reunion tour or something like that. Do you like Chris Barnes? I cannot fucking stand Chris Barnes.
No, his vocals to me are
annoying.
Extremely.
Corpse Grinder enunciates a little more. Chris Barnes, aside from being, I've heard he's not a very nice person, his singing just sucks.
I've said all along, in my death metal vocalists, I like a little enunciation on their vocal stylings. To him, he just sounds like guttural.
Yeah. I respect what Cannibal Corpse created when he was in the band. Obviously, they were pioneers.
That's why I've never liked 6 Feet Under.
I don't like 6 Feet Under. To me, Cannibal Corpse starts with Vile.
That's what you started me with.
I picked up a couple of the earlier albums and I was like, meh, I don't, this is not for me. And then this guy I knew was like, you got to listen to Vile. And I was like, Cannibal Corpse? Nah, I've heard that. And he's like, no, they got a different singer. And I was like, whoa. And Vile just blew my mind. And so I've been a fan since then. There's also a new Decapitated album coming out in September called Blood Mantra. I can't wait for that. Their last album, Carnival is Forever, fucking killer. Don't suppose you listen to those guys.
I haven't given them much of a listen.
What do you listen to? Do you just sit home and listen to Bon Jovi all day? No, I know where this is going. You just listen to Sesame Street records and
princess music.
That's your life for the next 18 years.
Yeah, we're trying. Even though she's only a month old, I'm trying to spin the vinyl for her now.
I've seen that. You were playing her was that Mastodon?
Yeah. I posted that little video of her in a little swing, just sleeping. And I'm trying to get her into it.
Yeah, well, Greg apparently has his kid on the Opeth.
I saw that. Don't worry. Mine will have Opeth and metal played around her all the time, so don't worry about that.
Excellent. The next generation of metal is being born. Did you see that article about how Nurgle from Behemoth accidentally outed the singer for Ghost?
Yes, on his Instagram.
Yeah. Apparently, Papa E is none other than Tobias Forge, who has also been in a band called Repugnant and has another band called Magna Carta Cartel. I looked him up. Well, the picture the Nurgle posted, and he looked kind of like Marilyn Manson. But I see it. You look at that and you go,
you see it around the mouth area.
Because that's
like
the only part we've seen.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's totally him. And I listened to some Magna Carta Cartel, and I'm like, yeah, I can hear it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, the Repugnant stuff is more death metal, so there's no comparison. But the clean vocals that he did for that band, I was like, yeah, that's him. That's Ghost.
Where are those bands from?
Sweden. He's Swedish.
Yeah, okay.
Part of me is like, it's about time. I'm tired of wondering. And part of me is like, I miss the mystery. It's kind of cool not knowing, but at the same time, it's kind of cool knowing.
And they've done those stunts with that twice now or 3 times now. That they have a new
Papa.
A new Papa. Wow, I didn't realize, I missed that he was in those bands. I'm going to check them out now. To go quickly with that, do you see them ever being like a Kiss, Slipknot, coming out of being nameless?
Well, they asked them about that, and they were like, it's difficult to keep the secret, and we're going to keep it as long as we can, and it's part of what the band is. So, at some point the names are going to get out, and I think as long as they keep making good music, that's going to be the important thing.
Yeah, I always had a hope that when it finally was announced who he is,
that it would be somebody you knew.
Somebody we knew, and somebody's like comes out of right field, someone we really like.
That was a big part of the mystery, was like, oh, it's got to be somebody we know, but no.
Nope, just some
lucky bastard.
Yeah. Man, they're blowing up.
Yeah. I hope the next album's a little better. The second album was okay, but I like the first album better. So
by far.
We'll see where they go with the third album, which they're apparently working on.
Ghost BC?
They're just Ghost. I don't give a shit the BC part.
I just said that because I know you hate that.
Ridiculous. So Mike Portnoy currently of the Winery Dogs, formerly of Adrenaline Mob and Dream Theater, blasted David Gilmour of Pink Floyd in the news the other day over the announcement that there's going to be another Pink Floyd album coming out in October called The Endless River. Wait a minute. What's it to Portnoy?
I don't know.
You know, he was saying how it was disrespectful to Roger Waters that they're doing this album without Roger Waters. You mean like the last one? The Division Bell back in 94? Was that disrespectful too?
Was Portnoy speaking up then?
Portnoy was like 12 then. Actually, he probably wasn't. But, anyway. Is Pink Floyd the same without Roger Waters? Obviously not. But I thought the Division Bell was a decent album. Apparently this music is going to be like, I don't want to say leftovers, but like based on stuff they tracked during the Division Bell, because this material is going to feature Richard Wright, who died back in 2008, the drummer for Pink Floyd. So to me, I'm like, well, okay, there's no Roger Waters, but there is Richard Wright. And I think, why let that stuff get dusty on a shelf somewhere? If you can finish that and give him one more little bit of glory in the world, go for it.
Yeah, why not?
So I'm looking forward to hearing that, despite what Mike Portnoy would have me do.
Maybe he says that because that's another band that he can't.
Yeah, he's like, well, they didn't ask me to sit in for Richard Wright on drums, and I'm pissed.
Remember he was in Avenged Sevenfold for a short time?
Yeah. I mean, I like Portnoy.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
The guy's a freaking madman.
He is, and he's great. And I love him, and I'm not trying to bust his balls too much, but I'm just kind of like, dude, who cares? Get over it. Something I'm not so sure about getting over. We have some friends who have a band out of Baltimore. They're called Charm City Devils. They're getting ready to release their third album. And I noticed a news announcement a couple days ago that there's a new band featuring members of LA Guns, Poison, and Cinderella called Devil City Angels. Okay, Charm City Devils, Devil City Angels. That's awfully close.
Very.
And their logo is very similar.
The logo is extremely similar.
It's a girl, like a devil girl.
Which was early Charm City Devils stuff.
It's still Charm City Devils as far as I know. I'm like, okay, now this is Tracy Guns from LA Guns and Eric from Cinderella, Ricky Rocket from Poison. I have a great respect for Tracy Guns, but, and I'm not saying that they ripped them off, but what the hell? That is awfully similar.
Yes, it is. Yeah, definitely check it out. Just as you're listening to this, check out Charm City Devils.
Definitely.
Look up their logo. Give them a listen.
Check out their first album, Let's Rock and Roll. Their second album called Sins. Their third album is going to be called Battles.
Check them out. Look at their logo. And then look at this Devil City Angels. And if you agree with us or what you think, send us a message. Love to see if you agree with us.
I think it's time for John Allen to call his lawyer.
So there's some new releases of the week. I picked this first one up at the store.
Yeah? What's that?
This Goat Whore, Constricting Rage
of the Merciless.
Yeah. I tell you, Goat Whore on this album seems to be really honing their craft.
You think so?
To put it that way. I tell you, they always been one of those bands that while I've, listened to, and I know you were really big into their album.
Hell yeah, Goat Whore.
A couple years back. You really
Covering out the eyes of God.
That's it. To me, they've always been there, but I've never really given them that serious of a listen.
You didn't even know that Sammy was an acid bath.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well, now you do.
This album hooks me.
Yeah.
I can't really describe it. They're just doing what Goat Whore does and just doing it better each time. And this is just a great evolution of the death metal stuff that they do.
They've always had a pretty raw sound, and this album is definitely very raw.
The recording quality on this is excellent, too.
Yeah.
Now, this next one, Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls.
This has been a back and forth. Is it good? Is it bad? There's been speculation, and we've mentioned it before. I heard some tracks, and you heard some tracks, and we weren't sure. The production didn't sound all that great, and it sounded like maybe they're phoning it in a little bit. I don't know if you've listened to it again recently, but I gave it a good solid listen this past week, and it's fucking awesome.
Well, that's not the reaction I expected.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was working from a promo copy that for whatever reason didn't sound very good production-wise. I get this a lot. I'll get promos from labels or bands, and I'll listen to it, and sometimes I'll even write it up in the review. Not bad, but the production kind of sucks. And then I'll hear it somewhere else. Like, in this case, I heard Redeemer of Souls on Spotify. And I was like, wait a minute, that is not what I have. That sounds a hell of a lot better than the thing that I was sent. What the hell? So then I had to backtrack and basically change my tune and go, okay, I'm wrong. The production does not suck. The production is actually quite good on Redeemer of Souls. And I wasn't sure about the songwriting. Again, it was just sort of like, well, are they just rehashing things? Are they phoning it in? Well, it certainly sounds like old school Judas Priest. I didn't care for the last two albums, Nostradamus and Angel of Retribution, the two after Rob came back. I still prefer, Painkiller and before.
It's weird. A lot of this later Judas Priest stuff to me best way I could put it, sounded like his solo work.
Okay.
Which has never hooked me. It just kind of seemed bland and boring.
Yeah. But listening to this album, the first listen through, I was still questioning. I was like, well, at least the sound quality is better. But I still wasn't hooked yet. But then by the second day, I started having songs in my head. I'm like, Redeemer of Souls, and March of the Damned, another one that gets stuck in there. I'm like, okay, well, the songs are getting stuck in my head, so that's a good sign. And by the third day, I was listening to it and just banging my head and just being like, yeah, Priest, man! So I'm definitely 100% behind the new Judas Priest album.
Now, behind it enough to, so far, top 5, top 10 of the year? I know we're not going to make a list yet, but is it that strong? Or is it, I guess I should ask, year end, will it stand out for you, or will it just be another passing album?
Hard to say at this point. We still have 5 to 6 months of music to come out. It has potential to be, it depends on how long of a list we make. If I do like a top 100 like I have in the past, I could see it in there. But if I only did like a top 25, I'm really going to have to see what comes out the rest of the year.
So I was just wondering if the album, in your opinion, has legs to it, to really...
Well, like last year, the big return album was Black Sabbath 13. That totally would have been, that was I didn't really do an official list last year, but I think my number one album last year would have been Black Sabbath 13. The Priest album will not be my number one. I've already told you what my number one is. That's going to be Triptychon. What the hell is up with Godless?
That's why we need to get him on the show.
We need to do that. We were hoping to do that today, actually, but as yet I have not figured out how the fuck to record.
Yeah, so if anybody knows how to record a conversation, phone, Skype, Google Hangout, whatever you got.
Well, it's not so much that. I know how to record it. I don't know how to record them and us at the same time.
So help us out if you know how to do that.
Yeah.
So
I'm dumb.
Looking what else we have out this week. Every Time I Die, released from Parts Unknown. You know what you're getting with Every Time I Die. I picked this up. Just catchy parts to it. It's fun. It's
whatever's. This is all you.
You know what you're getting with that. Corrosion of Conformity 9.
Yeah. This is the second album that they've done in a row without Pepper Keenan. Personally, I dig it. I liked them before Pepper Keenan. I like them after Pepper Keenan. But I like the fact that the next one will be Pepper Keenan. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, this'll do.
Now, this next one here, I still have never been able to... I'm going to be crucified by the metal community here, but I've never gotten into this. And this is the new release of Emperor in the Nightshade Eclipse, the 20th anniversary of this album.
In the Nightside Eclipse. 20th.
Nightside Eclipse, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the 20th anniversary. I'm like, what? How did I get so old? I remember when that came out. But
I know a lot of people love this album.
It's classic. It is practically the textbook definition of Norwegian black metal from the 90s.
I still can't get into it.
You'll get there.
When I'm a big boy.
Well, then why don't you talk about this next one that you like so much?
I'm just gonna skip right ahead to. I'm not gonna leave off the rest of these, but to talk about what I'm listening to right now, this album, Mastodon, Once More, Round the Sun. Mastodon has kind of gotten away a little bit from their heavier vocals, heavier playing. This is more of some of the tracks have a rock sound.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I tell you what, it is catchy as hell. Catchy as hell.
There are moments that are not bad.
You talk about songs getting stuck in your head. Just the riffs in this, the chorus in this, everything is just sticks with me.
I went into this album wanting to like it, even though the last album disappointed me in many ways. I hope always springs eternal. I'm always like, well, maybe the next album's gonna be something I like.
And again, we talk about bands we used to hate, and now we're into. Mastodon was that band for me.
Yeah.
When they were first out, I couldn't stand them. Now I'm hooked. I was extremely excited for this album to come out. It's lived up to my expectations. It hasn't left my record player since I got it.
Yeah.
It's sold great. It cracked the top 10, I believe, on records, on album sales. I think it came in number 6 or 8. So
Yeah, I need to give it a more listen than I already have. I only listened to it once, and I have to agree there are some good moments on there, and there was nothing quite like Curl of the Burl to turn me off. But yeah,
have you seen the video for High Road?
No,
check that out. It's kids.
I don't like that song though.
You don't?
No, that song's terrible. That's the worst part of that album so far.
Really?
It's so bad.
That song has been stuck in my damn head ever since I first heard it.
No, it's funny because when I was listening to it, I was like, really? That's the song that they're going to go with? That song that's probably the worst song on the album? Okay.
Wow. Well, we're agreed to disagree on that one there. And we'll move on to Septic Flesh.
Yes.
Their album Titan.
Greek band, sort of a symphonic death metal. You hear symphonic black metal. This is truly symphonic death metal. It is so massive. I did a review of it last week, I think. And I just love this album. I don't know if you've heard these guys, but
we saw them live, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So I guess you have heard them in that extent.
The album I have of them, a friend gave it to me. Artwork drawing of that animal or something on it. I can't remember what it is, but that's the one I have.
Well, it's good. It's worth hearing. I highly recommend it. Next up, this album's out this week. It's a band that I'm particularly fond of called November's Doom, and their new album, Bled White.
A couple years ago, you were hooked on them.
Oh, yeah. Their last album, Aphotic, I think it's called. I think that's how you pronounce it. Is amazing. Their older material is good as well. I have a promo for this album, and I've heard it, and I like it. My pre-order of the vinyl, I got an email yesterday saying that it is shipped and is en route, so I will have that this week.
This next one here, Suicide Silence, You Can't Stop Me. Really looking forward to this one that comes out this week.
I have the promo. I haven't listened to it.
I'm excited for this one because I'm a fan of Eddie's work with All Shall Perish. One of my favorite album releases was their Awaken the Dreamers. I like his vocal stylings a lot. Some talk here, like we've talked in the past on another previous episode, should Suicide Silence have still even continued?
The answer to that is no.
After Mitch's passing, George says no. I say, hey, the rest of the band needs to keep going on.
They could do something under a different name. Woven War, the new band featuring the former members of As They Lay Dying, did they go, well, we're just going to get a new singer and call ourselves As They Lay Dying? No, they did the right thing. They said, our singer's a douchebag, which is different than being dead, obviously, and they started a new band. That's what they should have done. It's not like they would have just dropped off the map because the name was different. Woven War, brand new name.
Do you abandon those songs?
Woven War did.
What do you do if you're Suicide Silence?
You could still play them. People that are no longer in bands play. Phil plays Pantera songs.
Yeah.
There's no reason they can't play the songs.
But I'm excited. I, again, like Eddie's work. I have always liked Suicide Silence music. And it sounds like here in the interview he did with the Mental Sucks guys that he was pretty much given free rein to come in, take the reins, and start going with it.
Well, it's because probably that was what Mitch was doing. And so they're like, well, somebody needs to take the reins. We don't do that.
Yeah. And he sounded excited from the songwriting aspect of it. So
no disrespect to any of these guys. They're all great musicians. It's just, I don't know. It's just not the same to me.
So that's what I've been excited for. But again, now we move on to what we've been listening to, and
you already did.
I already did mine.
I was recently on vacation, which is why there hasn't been much activity on the site. And when I go on vacation, particularly when I go on vacation to the beach, I like to take a bunch of music to listen to, hang out on the beach, put on some headphones, watch the waves. There's something interesting about peaceful waves with obnoxiously loud and heavy music. And one of the bands that I took with me that I listened to that I really liked is a band called Thou, and their fourth album, Heathen. I don't know if you've heard these guys, but they're that new strain of really heavy doom. It's not funeral doom, it's a little faster than Funeral Doom, but the vocals are harsh. The music is just crushingly heavy. I mentioned this the other day when I was talking about possible best of the year albums. I think this is probably going to be on that list somewhere, depending on how long the list is. It sounds really cool. I love the music. The vocals are really harsh, but the music is just... it's just really interesting, and it's heavy. It's well thought out music, I think. It's stuff that you have to listen to more than once to really kind of get what's going on. And I'm really into music like that these days, so I really recommend checking out Thou and their latest album, Heathen.
So before we get into our unsigned band, Moat Hug, I wanted to do a little vinyl show and tell here. In a sense. I know it's a podcast. People here...
You can't show, but you can show me.
I can show you, and I want to get your opinion. It's really... This is from a band, Air's Kingdom, that you turned me on to. This is their record, Incendiary.
Okay.
I bought it from them on eBay, $15. I wanted to come in and share it because the whole packaging and everything itself, first off, it comes in a nice, cardboard box.
Case, yeah.
Nice slip case. Look at that glorious artwork.
That is pretty impressive.
Take a look at what they give you with that. First off, you open it up. I wanted to really acknowledge these guys. They gives you a nice poster.
Yeah.
Nice sticker. Gorgeous disc. And why I also wanted to take a minute to mention this is that when I opened it up, they gave me a DVD of one of their concerts.
Really?
Packaged with it. I thought that was just extremely cool and generous, and the whole packaging on that record is sweet. That's just a great,
Yeah.
I just wanted to just throw it out there that this is, if you're a big vinyl collector, check out this Incendiary album. The disc itself, look how gorgeous this is. Nice picture disc of, as we do a little opening here, as we're opening gifts. Look at this little nice picture disc. Look at that.
That's nice.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. And you paid how much for this? 15?
15.
That's pretty good.
It blew me away. This packaging looks like it should be $50-$60. Easily. So it just totally blew me away. And I got it from the band on eBay.
That's why vinyl is the way to go these days.
Yeah.
I posted that article the other day. Other than digital, vinyl's the only format that is going up in sales instead of down. It's because vinyl is cool. When you can get everything on digital, when you can download it for free or otherwise, the only format that makes any sense to actually pay money for is vinyl because it's so cool. You get the large artwork. You get the, like this, a picture disc. It was beautiful. And it's art in its own sense.
It is. And again, the reason why I wanted again to bring it in is you get this. They throw in, like a lot of vinyls do, a nice poster. Mm-hmm. These guys, send in a nice sticker again, and then to top it off, the DVD of their concert from one of their shows was put me over the top. All for $15.
That's value.
Yep. So Ares Kingdom, ARES.
Aries.
Yeah, Ares Kingdom. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot with my grammar. But Ares Kingdom, Incendiary.
Excellent. Well, all right. Usually we don't take so long to get to our unsigned band, but we've had a lot to talk about this week. So as Buke mentioned, this week's band is called Moat Hug. They're from Greece, and this is their debut album, Real Eyes, Realize, Real Lies. I found these guys on Bandcamp, and I thought they were interesting. They have a sludge-style sound, very percussive. There's clean spoken vocals that have a curious accent. I'm assuming that's a Greek accent. And then there's harsh vocals that are just fucking... They're just fucking badass. I recommend giving them a listen, so hey, hold on a second, I'll play a song. I'm not exactly sure how this song is pronounced. It's possibly Kikeron, or Kikeron, or Kikeron, or... It's Kikeron. I'll spell it out for you. Anyway, here it is. Give it a listen. some pretty heavy shit there, huh?
Yeah. You played me them before we started today. I liked it a lot.
Excellent.
It fits, again, what I'm listening to now, so.
Yeah. Stick around, we'll play another song from them at the end of the show. All right, well, let's get into our favorite 3 albums from a band. I figured it's probably time we got to Metallica.
Probably.
It's not going to be any surprises here, I don't think, at least not from me. Why don't you start us off?
If I don't, again, probably going to get some hate mail for saying this or some crazy comments.
You are not going with Saint Anger.
I'd take myself off the podcast if that was the case. Number 3, Death Magnetic.
It's not a surprise.
I absolutely love this album. When it came out, I listened to it nonstop. Nonstop. I thought it was an excellent return to form.
I agree.
For them, of production, quality, everything on this album was excellent. The songs, great. Return to solos.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember, Saint Anger didn't even have any.
Nope. And they were beating on trash cans.
Number 2, Ride the Lightning. Mm-hmm. Number 1, And Justice for All.
What?
Yep.
I mean, it's not that it isn't worthy, but I'm just a little surprised, I think.
My first introduction to the band was hearing 1. Mm-hmm. That, to me, every time I hear it, just that first guitar riff.
Yeah, that was when Metallica first sold out. Just kidding, I know. That's when a lot of people heard Metallica for the first time.
Just hooked me. It's always just special to me.
Right on.
Again, people were saying I left off Master or something. I know it's gonna I'm gonna hear about it. Mm-hmm. But I hate the Black Album personally.
I like it.
I know you do. I know it's sold millions upon
a bajillion albums.
Yes. So I just think it's overplayed.
It probably is, but
it's not a bad thing.
With reason.
If I never hear Enter Sandman again, I'll be fine. But those are my top 3.
All right.
Oh, and if there's a number 4, if I could say real quickly, Metallica S&M.
Okay. That's a great album. Well, I don't have any surprises. I was considering Death Magnetic. I was like, it might have come in at 3. If I had a 4th, it would be Death Magnetic. But my 3...
Are they in order?
They are in order.
Okay.
My 3 is Injustice for All. Your number 1 is my 3. That was the album... It was their first album with Jason Newsted after the passing of Cliff Burton. And they really came back with a vengeance. This was the first time I saw Metallica, was on the Injustice for All tour. It was fucking incredible. It was my first real pit where I got my ass handed to me.
With the real lady, the Justice that broke apart.
Yeah, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'd never seen anything like that on a show before.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Before that I'd been to shows with like Ozzy and Iron Maiden. But that was wow.
Was it a center stage?
No, it was a normal stage.
Okay.
Queensryche opened that show. Boy, they took a lot of crap. That was their Operation Mindcrime tour, so, I dug them. It's really the only album I really liked by Queensryche, but yeah, that was a pretty amazing show. My number 2, Ride the Lightning. Ride the Lightning could easily have been my number 1. That was my first taste of Metallica. Probably my favorite song by Metallica's on that album.
Just about to say that.
Fade to Black. Everything on that album's just crushing, including the song that they hate, Escape. I love that song. So naturally, my number 1 is everybody else's number 1 except for you.
It's like everybody in music.
Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
What can I say? I'd heard Ride the Lightning before Master of Puppets came out. I bought Master of Puppets brand new when it first came out on cassette. And I remember my mom taking me to the mall so that I could go to Record Town. And I bought it. And I hopped in the car and I popped it into my Walkman, put my headphones on, and listened to it I remember the ride home from the mall.
That is cool.
Listening to Master of Puppets going, oh my God, what is this? And that album, it literally changed my life.
Do you remember the reception that the album had at the time?
Oh, it was pretty massive.
It was?
Yeah, in metal terms anyway. Mm-hmm. The world at large was still pretty oblivious to Metallica and metal of that type. But it was so new.
Was there press? I guess press in the sense of advertising. Would you walking into?
No.
No.
You walked in and it was just in this little corner of the. Very little, because they hadn't broken big yet. Ride the Lightning had gotten,
What year is that again, Master?
Yeah, that came out in early 86.
I was 3. Okay, I can't fathom Metallica not being what they are now.
I was 14.
Yeah, it's the fact that you still walked in, grabbed it, had that experience with it. Still, now when Metallica releases an album, there were still record stores. There would still be people beating down the doors for the store to open. It was just crazy. It was just another.
It was just another.
It was just another release. Just another. Just go in and get it.
Yeah. This was the beginning of the beast that would become Metallica. That's the only album. I mean, as we've mentioned before, I'm not a listen to one thing exclusively kind of guy. I am a total metal slut. I listen to everything. I listen to something, then I move on to the next one.
Yeah.
When Master of Puppets came out, it was the only thing I listened to for the entire summer of 1986.
Really?
That's all I would listen, because there was nothing else that could even touch it, except for Slayer.
That's what makes me jealous that you had that experience. Like, I have to admit, there's nothing with music. Some things like Pantera. I'm late to the party again. But when I got Reinventing the Steel, nothing special to a lot of people. But when I got that, it was like, shit, wow. Listen to it non-stop.
Yeah.
Non-stop. I don't know if in my time listening to metal, I've even had an album that I could even compare to the weight that your experience with Master of Puppets brought you.
And Master of Puppets came out in 86, so that's 28 years ago? And it still crushes. It's still used as a benchmark to measure other albums. And of course, it was the last release to feature Cliff Burton. So, there's my 3. Nothing too out of the ordinary or unexpected there.
Even you look at bands, I'll use Opeth again, you look at bands' releases like a Blackwater Park. Bands that is their defining album. Master of Puppets is on the pedestal all by itself.
Yeah, pretty much.
With the great albums. It's like a Black Sabbath.
Yep.
I'm just again jealous that you just had that experience of just going to the store that day,
Hey, anybody that got to live through the 80s metal thrash scene is a lucky person. I feel it's like when I was in high school, I was like, wow, man, the people that got to live through the 60s and see all the hippie stuff and the Woodstock and Hendrix and the Doors and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, that'd been cool. I feel that now for the 80s. I'm like, I feel proud of that I was an 80s thrasher.
Do you wish you maybe would have been a little older? Late teens, early 20s?
If I'd been a little older, I would have gotten to a few more of the shows. I had the opportunity to go to the Master of Puppets tour when they opened for Ozzy. And I was not quite old enough, and my parents were like, no, you can't go. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Wow.
And then like Cliff Burton dies, and I'm like, you suck. I hate you. I had the opportunity.
Yes.
I've since seen like bootleg video of that show, and I'm like, man.
Now, okay, fast forward to the Black Album release.
Yeah.
How was Metallica Fever?
Well,
I guess
there was instant pushback from the metal scene.
Really?
They were like, what is this? This is not typical Metallica. At the same time, it was fucking huge. Sandman was huge. I went to see them on this tour. That was, I think, the first time they did an In the Round thing. And it was amazing. It was an incredible show. Obviously, many of the fans that came out for that show and who bought that album were first-time Metallica fans. And so the people like me who'd been listening to them already for, that came out in, 91? I'd already been listening to them for like 8 years. Obviously, those people felt a little betrayed by that. But I'm like, whatever. Metallica, for me, was the biggest thing in the world from the time, Ride the Lightning. But obviously, once Puppets dropped, they were just the be-all, end-all.
Really?
It was like, there's Metallica and then there's everybody else. And it's always been that way. I mean, they're still the biggest metal band in the world. Whatever you want to say about them, whatever opinion you have, they are still the biggest metal band, possibly the biggest rock band in the world.
I was just about to say that. Possibly one of the biggest bands of all time.
They are an icon and an institution, and if that sort of thing offends you, then don't listen to them.
Yeah. Do you remember when Cliff died?
Yes. I didn't tell you that story on
No.
here already? I used to listen to this radio show called Metal Shop.
Okay.
I think it was on like Sunday nights at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that. It was like a 1 hour radio show. There was no metal on the radio, at least not in Michigan. Maybe in LA and New York and stuff, they had metal shows, but in Michigan...
Sunday night at 2 o'clock in the morning or
Yeah, it was like, eventually there was the Headbangers Ball, which was at like midnight or whatever. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I don't know, I don't remember, but it was late. And that was the only time you could get metal. And this Metal Shop radio show, they would always play like something new. I think it was called Fresh Cuts or Fresh Metal or something. Like at the end of the show, they'd play something new. And I was always looking forward to that. That's why I heard Manowar for the first time. That's why I heard Overkill for the first time. Anvil. So many bands I heard on that show. They played some crappy stuff too. They'd play like Europe, stuff like that. That was just, there was stuff you had to still filter through. But, it's what there was. There was no internet. There was no MTV show yet. And I remember I was in bed with my headphones on and the lights out, just listening to the show. And they announced that Cliff Burton had died. And I fucking sat there in my bed and I fucking cried.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God. Because Puppets had been out 7 months at that point. And, it was in September, so I just spent the whole previous summer listening to nothing but this album. And then in that September, Cliff died, and I lost my shit.
Because that probably brought in the uncertainty, I could assume.
Yeah.
What was going to happen to the band?
They questioned it. They were like, are they going to break up? Are they going to carry on? Are they going to do a Zeppelin and break up? Are they going to, what are they going to do? And I was just traumatized by that. I remember that moment.
Now, what did you think then when they did announce that Jason had joined?
I was happy. Okay. I was sad that Cliff was gone, but I was so glad that there was going to be a Metallica still. And I was curious about him. They put out the Garage Days EP, and I really dug that. I still dig that. I just got that on vinyl. And I remember going to pick that up, too. In fact, I remember, I think I drove. That was like one of my early, like, driver's permit things, or it's like me and like my whole family went, and I was the one driving us to the mall, and I picked that up. So yeah, Metallica.
Wow, that's awesome. Still cool. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
That was great. I don't know in my lifetime if I will. I know the music scene's changed, but albums will always be released. I don't know if I will. I hope get to experience something that landmark.
Did you ever have a time where you went and camped out in front of a record store for a midnight release?
Nope.
You don't get that anymore. Maybe you do with video games. I'm sure you've probably done that.
I've done that for video game systems and stuff, yeah.
But I remember the one that stands out to me is Slayer's Divine Intervention. I remember camping out at the Tower Records in Ann Arbor, waiting for Divine Intervention to be released. Or camping out for tickets.
I do remember that.
Does anybody camp out for tickets anymore? I don't even know, because it's all online.
We used to camp out at the mall for HF Festival tickets when you'd have to go to like Macy's or something. They had the Ticketmaster in their customer service.
Yeah. We camped out for Injustice for All tickets. And I remember camping out for the Division Bell Pink Floyd tickets back in 94. It's something you don't maybe think about every day, but it's one of those things that it's a bygone era of things that people just don't do anymore.
And I mention that again because I don't know if in my lifetime or I don't know if we're at that point with music that can there be another Puppets again?
Yeah.
Can there be another Black Sabbath? We mentioned it in the CD release. Can there be another Emperor release? Mm-hmm. Can there be these landmark releases that at the time you pick up and you think, oh, just another record I'm buying?
It's really one of those things that it's time will tell. Something may come out this year that it may turn out to be huge. The way metal is these days, there's not a lot of new innovation. And if it is, it's in strange directions. But it's not outside the realm of possibility that there will be... it seems likely that there will be more landmark albums, but who can say? Will they be the same as or as good as things that have already come out? One can hope.
Maybe this is a discussion for another episode, but with the changing way music is done and delivered and purchased, maybe that makes it harder to get that master now. And,
the market is certainly saturated with everybody and their brother being able to release their own album and plethora of indie labels. There's so many indie heavy metal labels that, I hear a new one every day. Everybody and their brother has a band and a label, and they're releasing music. And that's great that everybody has that freedom and that ability to do that, but it also dilutes the pool of quality.
It's like, I can go get, when Death Magnetic came out, I was there first day. It released, I was there within minutes buying it.
Yeah.
But they had already had 3 decades, behind it. I can't say enough. I'm just so jealous that your number one album, you bought it, you put it in not knowing what you're even listening to at the time. Yep. You knew it was something good. You knew it was something great. And look, 3 decades later, look what it's turned into. One of the landmark albums of all time.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky, aren't I?
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I can't say that with any...
Well, that's how we got here in the first place, is that you were always bugging me to tell me about the old days. Yeah. That Man-O-War thing. Grandfather, tell me a story. That's how this all started. Yes. That's basically how the site started. Yes. I mean, I started the site before, but
that's how we started hanging out.
Yeah, and then the podcast certainly came about because of just us talking about things. So
if you have any experiences like this, please write us. Share your comments. Let us know if you had your own Master of Puppets experiences with an album.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to share some.
Speaking of people writing in, I wanted to give a shout out to Chris Green out there in Northern Ireland. Chris wrote me the other day, had some kind words. He was interested in picking up a t-shirt, so I thought I would mention it on here in case anybody else is interested in a t-shirt. The more people we get, the cheaper it'll be. Doing one-offs is a kind of expensive ordeal, so if you're interested in a t-shirt, if you haven't seen them already, I can send you designs, and maybe we can hook up a multiple piece order to bring the price down for everybody. Yep. So, send me an email, tweet me, Facebook me, whatever you want to do. Get a hold of me. Let me know if you want in on this.
And I wanted to say thanks to Vonnie for reaching out for a couple emails you sent to me. That was a really cool conversation going back and forth. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, why don't we get into our classics for this week? What do you got for me?
I was listening to this on vinyl the other day. 1987, the second release by King Diamond. My favorite album by the group, Abigail. It's start to finish, this album, to me, is awesome.
Don't forget to pick up your King Diamond ticket. I got mine.
I know. That's what made me, pick this one. Shows are selling out. You see that?
Are they really? Well, you better get on it, because you don't want this to be another Iced Earth or anything like that, where I'm like, hey, man, the show was great. How was sitting at home?
Do you think the King's kind of having a resurgence?
Well, sure. I mean...
Because remember when we saw him last time, we saw him at Jack's.
Yeah.
He's playing the Fillmore this time.
Yeah, well, absence makes the heart grow fonder. He hasn't been around for a while. He's coming back in a big bad way.
What do you think of Abigail?
Abigail's classic.
Is it your favorite King album?
It is not. Mine is probably Them. It's just, I'd heard Abigail when it came out.
I love the story of Abigail, too.
But something about Them, that was just the album that clicked with me. And that's always been my favorite. I really like The Eye, too.
Because Them came out, you look at how these bands are releasing their albums. Fatal Portrait in 86, Abigail 87, Them 88. You almost wish
boom.
You almost wish bands would go back to doing that.
Yeah. Although if everybody was releasing albums every year, I'd be buried. I'd be like, What? Metallica kind of started this trend.
Do you know why bands were doing it then? Is it because without the press and getting your name out, that's the only way you could really...
Well, back in the really old days when the dinosaurs walked the earth, people like the Beatles released albums every couple of months. It's like, if you didn't have a new album out in 6 months, it was all about visibility. Back in the 60s, the radio was pretty much it. Out of sight, out of mind. And so people were constantly releasing new singles and new albums because you had to stay in the public eye. Otherwise, they forget about you and you're done with. As the album format started to take over, people could wait a little longer. And so then you got to the point in the 70s and the 80s where it was like, okay, this is this year's album instead of this is the 6 months album.
This is this quarter album.
Yeah. And so then it was a year to year and a half. And then Metallica was, and maybe that was with Cliff Burton passing, there was a bit of time there, and they just started taking longer between albums, and then it was 2 years between albums and 3 years between albums, and Metallica does an album every 5-6 years now. It's like, I don't know, at some point everybody else just started doing that. And then it was more like every 2 years is still relatively normal. Yeah. But it's not, a lot of bands take 3 years.
That's what Opeth is doing right now, every 3.
And, maybe it's because they tour a lot more now. That's where the money is for bands these days. So they tour, and then do an album just so they have an excuse to tour.
So that's my classic.
Right on. My classic this week is from the band Dissection, or if you prefer, Dissection. You can say it either way.
That's how I pronounce it.
A lot of people go with their 1995 album, Storm of the Lightsbane.
That's what I thought you went with.
But I'm not, because everybody knows that album. Come on, everybody knows that. Everybody listens to Where Dead Angels Lie. That certainly is probably my favorite Dissection song. But I really dig their first album from 1993, The Somber Lane. Dissection was they straddled the line between death metal and black metal. They were very melodic in a black metal sense, but very heavy in a death metal sense. And John was kind of doing his own thing that was just, he was part of the scene, but he wasn't an Emperor or a Mayhem or a Dark Throne. He had his own sound, and it was very original, and I really dig this album. There's only 3 Dissection albums, 3 studio albums, and all 3 of them are great. I can't speak for John as a person. He was a little crazy, and, he did some not-so-nice things. I can't support him in that respect, but...
Can't support him in his death either.
Nope. He killed himself shortly after the release of their 3rd album, Rain Chaos. But his music stands on its own. It's incredible.
You know who the engineer was on this album? Looking up here in Wikipedia.
I have a guess.
Who?
On the Somber Lane?
Yeah.
Don Svanu.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, Swedish. Hello.
I didn't know that at all. Wow.
Yeah. There's a dude I could do a whole episode on. That man is a genius.
Yes.
Witherscape, his latest album, his latest band. Oh my God!
That's of all the bands again you recommend me. That's another one of the check off the list. If you have not heard Witherscape, check it out, please.
Yeah, or his other band, Nightingale, or Edge of Sanity, Panthymonium. I mean, the dude's everywhere. If he's not producing, he's doing guest vocals. He's incredible, and he's everywhere, and he's probably one of my favorite individual metal people around.
Yeah, Edge of Sanity, he was associated with Catatonia, Nightingale.
All right, well, we've definitely run along on this episode, which is to be expected. We had a lot of things to catch up on, but I think we are in the home stretch now. You got anything else?
I just wanted to say thank you again to you for the opportunity to come here and do this.
No problem. This is a blast.
Thanks to my wife for giving birth to my daughter.
Thought you were going to say putting up with you.
Well, yeah, that too. But thanks, to her, and thanks to all the kind words everybody said on Twitter and the emails and stuff. I really appreciate it. So again, if you want to get in touch with me, at OpethFan on Twitter, or Buke at wearemetalheads.com.
You can also check us out on Facebook. We're on iTunes, Twitter, Metalheads Pod. I'm also at Disciple OV Metal, Disciple of Metal. We're on Stitcher. We're everywhere. We are Legion. We are universal. So check us out. Let us know what you think.
And share us. Again, any stories you have. If you don't like us, if you think anything we could do to improve this.
Yeah, if there's something you want to hear.
If something you want to hear.
Maybe you've got a top 3 you'd like to know about, or a classic album you'd like us to cover.
If you're in an unsigned band and you're a metal band, you want us to maybe play your stuff?
Yes, Moat Hug is the last band on my list of unsigned bands. I need to go. I've got a couple that I'm going to contact, but yeah, we definitely need some more unsigned bands. All right, well, that's going to be it for this week. Let's play that second Moat Hug song. This is the song Black Gazer. See you next time.
Peace.
not from a hill. My comet is far from a desert. I find lovers covered. I bear treasures, symbols. I bring your lion again. Forgotten struggle the knuckles. You've beaten by Satan, Satan. My carpet seems to be my train. I keep my eyes to isolate you.